there are many things we're discussing. First, we want to turn to the subcontinent here, India, and some of the very interesting things that have been happening there as it concerns the mass movements of students, workers, and peasants. So we are very, very honored to be joined here as we continue the show by Aishe Ghose, who's an activist with the Students' Federation of India and also the president of the Students' Union at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Aishe, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, really an honor to have you here. And I think the proximate issue that was making me want to take up some of these points here was the recent Insaaf brigade that we saw in the state of Bengal. I mean, huge seas of people. I don't even know how many people, maybe you can tell us. It seems certainly like hundreds of thousands of people coming out. And so I was hoping you could say a little bit more about what led to this event and what were some of the issues at stake that led to people to come from hundreds of kilometers away to be a part of this gathering.
Yeah, so in Bengal, in the past more than 10 years, we have been seeing our right wing government at the state level of Bengal. And because of it, we have been seeing consecutively that people's issues are getting sidelined. And the context of jobs for youth or education, which is education for all among these students, basic questions of the workers, peasants, and are somewhere not being in the center stage of the state. Huge corruption has been levied against the state government at this present, which is been ruling Bengal, and that is what has been the primary question in the last few years, that the Insaaf Yatra, like the rally which we saw, it was for more than 50 days, like led by the youth, left student and youth organizations, and it covered more than 3,000 kilometers across the state of Bengal, reaching out to the common youth, students, and citizens of Bengal on the pertinent issues of livelihood, the grappling issue of corruption that is eating up the state of Bengal at this moment, and issues of job, employment, which are becoming the core issues among the youth at this point of time. We saw a huge response from the people. People came out in thousands in a very positive response that exactly what people want is not being spoken by the ruling dispensation at this moment, and that is why they want to reach out to the left youth and student organizations, so that they can represent the people's aspiration at this moment. And on the day of the brigade, which was the 7th of January in the capital of the state, which is Kolkata, we saw more than 7 lakh people who joined the brigade in demand for justice, Insaaf, which means justice. And people in Bengal, the youth, the students, the workers, every corner of the parts in Bengal, every corner of the people are asking for justice, and justice for the basic minimum needs that they have not been getting.
And can you maybe elaborate a bit on some of the specific demands that people are asking for when you talk about those minimum needs?
Yeah, surely. That one of the serious issues that we have seen in the past few years is the corruption charges that the ministers at this moment at the ruling dispensation are having. Whether it's the education minister in Bengal, he has been in jail for months now, and several other ministers who have been holding important portfolios in Bengal in the ruling dispensation at this moment have been under the behind the bar because of corruption charges. We have seen over the years that several exams, several employment jobs have been given to people. People have been bribed for huge amount of money to get those employment opportunities, and people who had merit for it, people who deserved the rightful choice of employment, have been not been given those choices. Not only this, but how the condition of the administration at this moment and the system within the state is that basic, even for the basic need of livelihood, even for basic industrialization, even for basic job opportunities, people are having to give lakhs of people are being asked lakhs of monies, that if you want to seek a job in this state, if you want something from here, you need to bribe people who are there in the system. So this kind of system is something that people are talking against, because people who deserve those positions, people who want have educational backgrounds, are actually not getting rightful rights of getting jobs. Also, education is a huge factor at this moment. If we see, students have been continuously demanding access to better facilities, better quality of education. We have been seeing huge migration in the past few years from Bengal to other states within the Indian state, within the country, because they are not getting quality jobs inside the state. They are migrating to other parts of the country. They're migrating abroad or to other countries just because of getting quality education, or just because they want quality work culture or basic work needs. There is no minimum wage given to the workers at this moment. People are not talking about, the government at this moment is not talking about minimum wages, and it's quite lower than the average minimum wage, which is there in many parts of the country. So that all these things have been a huge thing, and that is why people, and the youth especially, is asking for justice, because they don't want a state which has always stood for inclusivity, a state which has always stood for the rights of the people. At this moment, the youth, especially the youth, the students, and the people from different parts of Bengal feel that they are not getting justice. They are not getting their basic livelihood questions are not getting addressed.
Would you put what took place in Bengal recently in a broader context of something I think we've been seeing, over the past couple years? I mean, obviously we saw the farmers' protests that not only shook India but shook the whole world. Maybe one of the world's largest, if not India's largest, workers' rallies. I believe that was last year that took place. Now we're seeing, especially the youth, rising up in Bengal, a key state of India. I mean, would you sort of put this into maybe one stream of perhaps a rising tide of resistance to the sort of hyper-capitalist agendas at many of the regional and national government levels?
Yeah, post 1991, we have seen a shift in the economic policies in India. As we have seen globally, it has also affected India. And of course, with the right wing shift in the government, direct shift of power, where we have seen the far right political organization, political parties are now into the government. We have seen the economic policies, the capital, the corporate nexus have been increasing on an everyday basis. And as the corporate nexus has been increasing, we are seeing that people's questions somewhere, the need of the people, the rights of the people, the democratic questions of the people, or the livelihoods of the people, are somewhere taking a backstage. And hence, we have seen the largest number of movements in the past few years. When we talk about the kind of labor codes that have been passed in the Indian parliament, if we see, there have been codes which the workers across India are protesting. When we saw the farmers' agitation, we saw the kind of policies, anti-farmer policies that the present dispensation ruling government tried to bring in, were something which is going to give away a lot of, take away a lot of rights from the farmers and give away a lot to the corporates. And we have been continuously seeing this happening in every field, that day by day we are seeing that the working class population inside our country, the people who have been putting out labor day in and day out, their rights are continuously getting scuttled. And especially during the pandemic and post the pandemic, we have been seeing that how the corporates have benefited from these situations, and the condition of the workers, the farmers, the peasants have worsened in these times. And there has been no policy which is there from the behalf of the government to support and facilitate these people, the farmers, the workers, or the student or the youth at this moment, whether it is financially, whether it is a systemic way of supporting them. We have seen huge reduction in scholarships for the students. We have seen huge, like India has seen one of the highest percentage of unemployment rate in these after its independence. So this is because of the economic condition. This is because of the policies at this moment that the government, the far right governments have been taking, and the corporate nexus which is directly linked into this.
And then can you also on the other side of that talk about, under this current right-wing government that you have in India, what is the response looking like towards these current protests, given what we've seen in the recent past? I imagine that it hasn't been pleasant, the response.
Uh, of course, like as we see that there has been rise in anti-people policies, we have seen resistance also. It's not that we have not seen resistance. We have seen mass movements. It have been quite hopeful that the farmers, the peasants, the workers have been fighting on an everyday basis to take their agenda and to make people understand that what the farmers are fighting today is not only their agenda, but also for everyone. But as much as we see that resistance is happening, as much as we see that people are taking up their agendas and building movements, mass movements, we also see that there is crackdown on these voices. Recently, we see our parliament has suspended more than 140 member of parliaments from the opposition. It's like cutting down all the voices of the opposition, or also cutting down people's direct voices, because we do elect our member of parliaments and send them to the parliament to represent our voices. So suspending them from parliament means suspending people's voices from the parliament, is people's issue from the parliament. But this has been happening. We recently saw in the past few years the arrests, continuous arrests of people, citizens, students, youth coming, who are speaking from the democratic movements, who are talking about the policies which are being taken against the people. And we also saw that several sedition charges and several other charges which has been levied against these students, youth, or farmers many times, or people who are protesting against the uh, policies which the democratic movement or the mass movements have felt that does not suit the interest of the community. So these kind of crackdown are continuously happening. There are people, there are citizens of our country who are behind the bars for more than 1,000 days for now, just because of voicing their dissent, and they have been put behind the bars just because they were not siding with the present ruling dispensation, or they were not agreeing to the policies that this current government was trying to impose, and they had a differentiated opinion of how the country should be looking towards the minorities of the in this country, or how the government should be looking towards its own citizens of this country. We have been seeing a huge crackdown also at the same time.
And briefly, before we let you go here, obviously talking about this huge demonstration we just recently saw and thinking about momentum, should we expect more demonstrations, strikes, and forms of resistance in Bengal or elsewhere moving forward into the coming weeks?
Yeah, as we sit here, according to Indian time, it's night, almost 2 o'clock in the morning. We are having a huge protest rally at the national capital of our country, which is New Delhi. We are having a students' rally, which is specifically to highlight the education policies at this moment, the anti-student policies that has been taken by the current ruling dispensation. More than thousands of students across the states are going to participate. More than 16 student organizations are participating in this rally tomorrow morning at Delhi's Jantar Mantar. And students are coming out to voice their opinion that we want an inclusive education, we want quality, accessible education, and education for all. And the kind of privatization of education, which is rampantly increasing in Indian spaces, we are seeing that public education has been diminished on an everyday basis. People coming from the most marginalized section in India are not getting access to basic fair education, free and fair education. So these are the issues we are talking. Employment is one of the important issues. Women's safety has become a very, very big concern in educational and campus spaces, where we don't have committees to look around sexual harassment and related issues of student community like scholarship, the reduction of funds in education sector. We are going to have a huge rally, and in the coming days, of course, because if such kind of anti-student, anti-youth, anti-people's policies are continuously being taken, decisions are being taken by this government, we are bound to see resistance also coming from the people, because people are tired of these kind of anti-people's agenda. People want their agendas to be in the forefront. Students do want, youth wants, farmers, workers, everyone wants that people should talk about their livelihood. People should talk about their, like, the agendas of the people, rather than only satisfying the needs of the corporate at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, we really appreciate you coming and helping us sort through all of this very important issues in India, very important country. Aishe Ghose, who is an activist with the Students' Federation of India and president of the Students' Union at JNU. Thank you so much for staying up late and giving us some of your time here on the Freedom
Thank
Side.
you.